things are better left unknown. And I'll never find you here, 'cause no one's ever Oh, what a widow, a peaceful spider. When the glass is clean, she's a sneaky hider. Hide the lies and the alibis. Oh, what a sinner. Is it in her? What's the truth in this riddle? Is love really just this simple? I can't seem to find my way in this world that never stays. What a widow, a peaceful spider. When the glass is clean, she's a sneaky hider. Hide the lies and the alibis. What a sinner. Is it in her? Is this real? Just illusion. I'm lost in the wonderland of confusion. I'm lost in the wonderland of confusion. Is this real or just illusion? Manifestation or a dark delusion? Is this real or just illusion? I'm lost in a wonderland of confusion.
Ripon Rabbit Hole is a community-driven radio. At times the community comments may reveal prejudices and other beliefs that we or our sponsors do not condone. Views or opinions expressed by the community, callers, or guests, are those of the individual speaking and do not represent the views or opinions of this site. Ripon Common Sense content is intended for mature audiences only. Enjoy.
Hello. Hello. This is My Life DIY, and
hi, this is JoJo.
Hi, my name is Ash.
Hey everybody, it's AJ the Ripon Rabbit.
This is Cynthia Sue Larson.
This is your man Meta, aka Propagate This Light.
And you're now listening
to Dark Wolf's Den.
The Dark Wolf's Den Show on Ripon Common Sense Radio.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
Are ghosts real?
We had 1,000 hours of continuous communication with the spirit world.
Does time travel actually exist?
The laws of physics seem to be compatible with time machines.
You know, sometimes I wonder about reincarnation, don't you?
A 4-year-old boy in Adelaide, Australia, has told his parents that he used to be Britain's Princess Diana.
What would happen if the world found out that aliens were real?
I didn't say disclosure would be easy, but what is the alternative?
To establish a space force as the 6th branch of the armed forces.
We have so many questions and yet so little time, so to have you here, the pleasure is all mine.
Coming to you from a secret mountain cave, hidden deep within the Idaho wilderness. This is the Dark Wolf's Den Show. Now, here is your host, Jerry Hicks.
That's right, I am Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf. And we are broadcasting live worldwide from a secret mountain cave, hidden high up in the beautifully snow-covered peaks of the Idaho mountains, that's right. We're ripping through the electromagnetic soup, tearing through the atmosphere, and tunneling away into your radio like a quantum particle. This is the Dark Wolf's Den Show for Thursday, April 1st, 2021. So whether you're on the edge of reality, the edge of the galaxy, or the edge of your seat, we're glad you chose us to be right there with you. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about something that was actually a rediscovery in modern times, a magical element that the ancients knew about and were just now, in recent times, starting to relearn the properties thereof. That's right, tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about the magical element of Ormus. That is tonight, April 1st, 2021, on the Dark Wolf's Den Show. But first, today in history. As you guys know, I try to do my best to get a today in history that kind of matches our topic, if at all possible, right? Well, today we have definitely hit gold on that. All pun intended. You'll understand this joke here in just a moment, actually. But, ladies and gentlemen, on this day in 1971, the United Kingdom lifts all restrictions on gold ownership. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, 1971. And that actually connects to our topic directly, as we'll find out here in just a moment. And that is Today in history. And I always have been amazed with the fact that humans are obsessed with gold. All of our lives we've been obsessed with gold. And our lives, I mean like generation upon generation, all the way back to the ancients. They were obsessed with gold. Well, what if the ancients knew a secret about gold that we didn't know today? What if we were to rediscover that secret? Well, that is exactly what may have happened in the 1970s. We may have rediscovered a secret that the ancients even knew, and the Sumerians, and it may have even been spoken about in the Bible. And this is the element of Ormus. Well, you might ask yourself, what is Ormus and why is it even important? Well, because it's magical. It actually has properties that is nothing shy of what we would call alien and or magic. But we'll get to all of that here shortly. This is going to be an incredible episode, guys. The rabbit hole goes really, really deep on this one. So let's go ahead and get this party started. Without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce the voice of a man that passed away in 2017. He was one of my favorite researchers, an investigative journalist back when investigative journalism actually meant something. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jim Mars is here to tell us about the magical Ormus.
Let me start with a fellow named David Hudson. He was a Phoenix area farmer, and when I say a farmer, this is not a guy with a mule. He was a multi-million-dollar farm corporation. But he was having a hard time of it in the Phoenix area because the heat, the drought, it would dry up the soil, and he was really having problems. So he got the bright idea of putting various acids and chemicals into the ground to see if he couldn't loosen up the soil. And when he did, he noticed that there were some very odd properties to this soil. He used a copper electrowinning cell to separate the metal from the ground, and he began to come up with these strange little sparkly mineral things that he couldn't quite figure out. And so he took it to some local chemists and local geologists, and they couldn't quite figure it out either. And it turns out that actually what he was dealing with was an unknown, heretofore unknown property, a monatomic element.
So this discovery so far is a complete accident, and the geologist and mineralogist have no idea what he has found, and he's basically stumbled upon something that is new to modern science, and perhaps only to modern science, but we'll get into that here in just a moment.
He named it an orbitally rearranged monatomic element. Interestingly enough, O-R-M-E we find in ancient Hebrew meaning the tree of life. Isn't that interesting?
Remember that little tidbit that O-R-M-E in Hebrew means tree of life. Let us continue.
And the reason he named it this, because these were single atom elements, okay, that were derived primarily from gold, silver, platinum metals. This was back in the 70s.
And as promised, it connects right back to our today in history. The gold, platinum, or silver, so gold, of course, being the today in history. And this all happened in the 70s. And remember, in the 70s is when the UK actually got the gold ownership. So direct connection, interestingly enough, to the today in history. But that is only where the story begins. You would think this is something that, you know, people would have said, oh, well, oh, it was this, or, oh, you didn't discover anything, you know, come to find out. Well, come to find out that's not the case. Come to find out science got very interested in this.
By the late 80s and 90s, we see a number of scientific papers. This is being very much talked about in the scientific world, but is still not known to the general public. And it's pretty esoteric.
Oh, it's incredibly esoteric, and that's something you don't usually hear. Science and esotericism used in the same sentence, but this is going to break a lot more rules than that.
These single atom elements can be rearranged by orbitally changing the nucleus of the atom.
Remember, the single atom has the proton, neutron, electron, and the nucleus. So you literally are manipulating things at the atomic level, the each atom of gold, if you will, the single atoms of gold, or platinum, or silver. But for the sake of conversation, we're going to be speaking about gold.
Now, what he found was very unusual. When he was able to separate these monatomic elements from the ground and from other elements, it produced, and under certain heating procedures, he was able to produce a white powder.
And this is where this story goes from just a little strange to nothing shy of magical. Check this out.
And when you put the white powder in a weighing pan, they found out the pan weighed less than it did before you put the powder in.
Wait. Time out. That is one heck of a claim. Let's hear that again.
And when you put the white powder in a weighing pan, they found out the pan weighed less than it did before you put the powder in it.
Guys, do you guys realize what the implications of that statement really means?
So it had some sort of anti-gravity property to it.
Yeah, you heard that right. This powdered gold or silver or platinum, according to scientists, has anti-gravity properties to it.
Then it got stranger.
Okay, it's kind of hard to get more strange than anti-gravity properties, but what do you got, Jim?
Because they found out that if you heat treated it to a certain degree, the white powder would disappear. Well, now they really got excited because they thought, wow, here's invisibility perhaps.
And of course, let's go a little more logical than invisibility. Let's say because it is monoatomic element, let's say that it just evaporates. You add heat to it and it evaporates. I'll give it that. It might have that property even if it is a metal, right? If it's such a small version of the metal, perhaps it would have such a property. So fair enough, I could see that as a logical answer. However,
of course, then he started attracting attention from the big guys because who wouldn't want an invisible tank or an invisible plane? But what they found out is that they'd stir around in the weighing pan, and say, gee, I wonder where it went.
Okay, that's another very important piece of the puzzle. I want you guys to remember that. A very small action, but super important. They stirred around the weighing pan, okay? It's gone. It's disappeared. It's completely disappeared from reality. It's gone. They're stirring it around. And if it does reappear, if it is invisibility, it should be in a different form than when it disappeared. Again, they stirred the pan.
And then when it cooled off and came back to the white powder,
okay, so it cools off and it reappears. So fair enough, perhaps it is invisibility. That's interesting, right?
It was in the exact same configuration as when they first put it in the pan.
Now, wait a second. They stirred the pan. Remember, I told you that was important. They stirred the pan. It shouldn't be in the exact same configuration. It should be mixed up if it was invisible. However, when they cooled it, it reappears in the exact same way that it was when it disappeared.
In other words, it didn't just disappear. It went somewhere.
When I told you this was magical, I wasn't kidding. This is nothing shy of amazing, right? This stuff literally left reality when it got hot and returned to reality when the temperature returned to a different setting. So this is nothing shy of magic. If I told you there was an element out in nature that had the properties of anti-gravity and even disappearing and reappearing from reality itself, you would tell me that I was crazy, that I'm insane, right? However, this isn't coming from your common Joe, ladies and gentlemen. Remember, all these findings are coming from scientists.
Okay, so now we're finding that this manipulation of this atomic material can shift it into another dimension. All right? So now they're getting excited because, hey, maybe this is the key to unlocking faster than light drive, limitless free energy, dimensional time travel.
Kind of reminds me of that great big machine in Switzerland that's smashing together single atomic particles, trying to figure out what happens, right? Well, we are seeing that there's certain properties that these particles hold, and we know that they're using lead ions among other atoms that they're experimenting with. So perhaps they really are trying to rip holes in the fabric of reality using these atomic or monoatomic elements. But wait, there's more.
And they also found that it had physical properties, that you could ingest the white powder, and that it basically didn't heal you, it cleaned up your DNA.
Real quick, what you are about to hear is not medical advice. I am not a medical professional. I am merely giving you the information and allowing you to make your own decisions upon said information. Please do not take this information as medical advice by any means whatsoever. It is merely for your information and entertainment. Thank you.
And make you where you didn't have to be healed. So now we're talking about perhaps longevity, because we all know that every few weeks or so, every cell in your body is regenerated. There's not a cell in your body today that's the same cell that was there, say, 10 years ago. All right? So why can't we live for hundreds of thousands of years if we just keep regenerating our cells? Because at the end of our DNA strand is what they call the telomerase caps. There's a cap on our DNA. And when it gets to a certain time in your life, those caps kick in and you quit reproducing the cells. And what happens then? You age and you die. Oxidation.
This Ormus is said to fix this problem with the DNA and allow us to live longer and healthier lives. This is the claim made, and you can buy Ormus over the counter at many places, especially online. This is a legit, like, mineral that is sold over the counter at most drugstores and things like that.
Interestingly enough, this dovetails into the ancient stories of the alchemist who are trying to transmute base metals into gold. And we've all heard about that, and probably like me, you snickered at that. Now, poor fools think they take a piece of lead and transmute it into gold. But you can, if you can learn the secrets of this energy manipulation at the atomic and subatomic level, okay? Because they have taken gold, transmuted it into this white powder, the white powder of gold. And then they have taken the white powder and transmuted it back into a gold nugget.
Really quick, if you guys remember the periodical chart, each one of those on the chart is set up by its atomic weight. The weight of the amount of neutrons, protons, electrons around the atom. If you change one of those, you change the entire element. That's why you have 1, 2, 3, 4, so on and so forth. Gold and aluminum, and they've all got different atomic weights, different places on the periodic chart. So if you can get it down to the monoatomic level and change the orbit or even change the amount of protons or electrons within it, you can literally change the element itself from, say, gold to lead or silver or whatever the case may be. I don't know the breakdown chart, what it equivalent into. Removing an atom, removing an electron or a proton. I don't know what it would change the gold into, but the point is it would change it. Even on the periodic table, it would make it a completely different element. This is nothing shy of medieval alchemy.
Can be done, all right? But they are just now beginning to crack into this technology and this knowledge.
Well, beginning to crack back into this knowledge in modern times.
And again, we find it's nothing new, because in the Bible we learn about manna, Moses, the manna from heaven.
You guys remember that, right? The Israelites wandering in the desert, and they would wake up in the morning and there would be manna for their bread, right? And it never goes any further in discussing what this is, in just the fact that God left it, right? That's all it says. However, there may be something a little more to this story.
And they said it came from heaven because they'd wake up in the morning and this white powder was strewn all around the ground. Well, and they know nobody came in, there weren't any footprints. Nobody left it there, so it must have dropped from the sky. No, they were producing it on Mount Horeb in the southern Sinai, where back in 1901, Sir William Petrie of archaeological fame in Britain discovered what he called an Egyptian temple. And today they call it the Mount of Moses, and they think this is where Moses went. And I've talked to people who have visited there, and they said within sight of this are some mountains where they have ancient gold mines. And there is a foundry in this facility, and this is where probably they were manufacturing this white powder of gold. In fact, Petrie recorded that when they got there and they tore up the flagstones, they found all this white powder there, but they didn't know what it was. So the wind blew it all away.
And yes, the argument can be made that the white powder could have been anything. However, it's interesting that it matches our topic tonight.
This is ancient knowledge. They knew how to do this. We learned that Ramesses the Great offers conical white bread to the hawk-headed god of Hathor. And then down here we see Amenhotep III receives the conical Shem-Anah, or the Methus, okay? And all of that basically means the same thing. Manna in ancient Hebrew means, what is it? They didn't know what it was, but certain of the priesthood, some of this knowledge which had been passed down from earlier civilizations had been passed through the priesthood, through the knowledgeable people, and they knew how to do it, but they didn't know what it was. So it was manna. What is it?
And you remember earlier in the show, at the very beginning, as a matter of fact, I said, take a note that orme, or O-R-M-E, the substance we're talking about this evening, means tree of life in Hebrew.
You read in Exodus, when the dew had gone up the face of the wilderness, a fine flake-like thing, fine as hoarfrost on the ground. And when the people of Israel saw it, they said to each other, what is it? Manna. For they did not know what it was, and Moses said to them, it is the bread which the Lord has given you to eat. And they would take this powder and they mold it into little cakes and stuff, and they'd eat it. This was the manna that helped them survive in the wilderness all this time. Was this the white powder of gold?
Now, remember, we heard earlier that scientists found that it is quite okay to ingest ormus, and you can actually buy this over the counter. So it's not like they were doing something dangerous. And no, we cannot prove that it's one and the same thing, but I think the evidence would suggest heavily that that very much is the case.
This is really great. When Moses comes down off the mountain, and he'd been gone for a long time, and he'd gotten the commandments and everything, and the children of Israel had gotten pretty impatient, and they were wanting something better than their lot hanging around there, so they knew something about the gold was magical and had real spiritual properties. So they gathered all their gold and they built a golden calf and they were worshiping it. When Moses comes down, he got real angry about it, and he says, Moses' anger burned hot, and he threw the tables out of his hand. He broke them at the foot of the mountain. And he took the calf which they had made and burned it with fire, ground it to a powder, and made the children of Israel eat it. Okay? What the heck there?
And of course, we read stories like that in the Bible, and we just kind of bypass the weird and just go on with it and don't think that much of it, but that is really strange, right? It is something that we would have just assumed as part of the custom, but think about that. They burnt down gold into a white powder and made the Israelites eat it. So this is exactly what we're talking about tonight. Monoatomic gold. Metals like gold brought in down to a white powder, a monoatomic level, and then it is got these magical properties, these properties that it doesn't have on a macro scale. And it's kind of like the difference we find between the quantum world and the macro world, and how it's two different worlds that interact with each other just fine. Ormus may be one of those connectors between the two worlds, one of those abilities to have the magical properties of the quantum world in the macro world.
So we have these tantalizing things that this is a technology that was known back as far as biblical times. And then I've already mentioned Mount Horeb. This is a picture of Mount Horeb, and it holds the ruins which included this smelter where apparently they had where Moses was actually manufacturing the white powder of gold.
So Moses, being a leader of the priesthood, would have most likely had this information handed down to him. This knowledge that has been lost over time and, like we found earlier, has only recently been rediscovered. But it may go back even further than just Moses in the Bible. It may go back all the way to the very beginning of civilization as we know it.
Now, where did the Egyptians learn all this from? From the biblical patriarch Abraham, who had brought the knowledge of Samaria to Egypt. Look in the Bible. Abraham was not a Jew. He was not even a Semite. He came from Ur of the Chaldees. Chaldea was simply an ancient term for Sumeria or Mesopotamia, what we now call Iraq. And the city of Ur is still over there, Uruk. A lot of these towns, in fact, most of those cities in ancient Sumeria were named after Abraham's relatives. Okay, so Abraham was not just some poor Jew wandering in the desert with a camel in a tent. He was a very prominent and probably royal Sumerian who brought the knowledge of the ancient Sumerians to Egypt. Shortly thereafter, the whole Egyptian civilization sprang full-blown into existence. And what I found in researching Rule by Secrecy is that it was surprising to me. The earliest dynasties of Egypt were the most advanced. So the Egyptian civilization did not start, from a primitive and then build into this exquisite civilization. It started off as an exquisite civilization and then digressed and devolved. And all of it because of the information that goes back to Samaria. So we can see that Abraham comes from Ur of the Chaldees, goes up to Haran, comes all the way through Canaan, and ends up in Egypt. All of human history resides in Baghdad because that was the fountain of Western civilization for certain. The ancient Sumerians obviously knew a lot more than we even give them credit for.
Which is a very tall statement, because remember, the Sumerians had civilization and everything we know as modern civilization from day one. They knew everything, the mathematics, agriculture, solar system, astronomy, everything. So to say they knew even more is a tall statement, and we'll get into why it's possible they knew quite a bit more and why it directly connects back to the Sumerians in the second half of the Dark Wolf's Den show right after these messages. Ladies and gentlemen, sit right there and we'll be right back with the second half in just a moment. Don't you touch that dial. That's right.
We gotta stoke the fires and run off the men in black. Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back.
Start stoking those fires and running off those men in black. Hi, everyone. It's AJ, the Ripon Rabbit. Are you enjoying tonight's look at the Dark Wolf's Den show? If you are and you haven't done so already, please make sure to thumb up that video, hit that subscribe button, and ring that bell. You'll get our notifications every time we go live. We're here every Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday nights, bringing you the very best of common sense radio, the Ripon Rabbit Hole. I'll return again tomorrow night, Friday, April 2nd, as we explore tinkerers. Are you a tinkerer, or perhaps do you know someone who is? What makes a tinkerer tick? Join me tomorrow night starting at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, and find out. Then Saturday night, come along with me as we explore the rabbit hole of calendar stones. That's right, ancient stones that have significance to solar and lunar scenarios. We're going to talk all about it. That's Saturday, April 3rd. And of course, unfortunately, we're going to end out the weekend on a holiday, right, together on Easter Sunday with a look at Easter Island on Easter Sunday. And unfortunately, that is postponed. The Fantastic Fun Show. Normally, we do the Fantastic Fun Show the first Sunday of every month, but due to the holiday, the Fantastic Fun Show has been postponed, and I'm quite upset about that. However, today is also a holiday. That's right, Eugene. Was this an April Fool's joke?
My answer is yes. I think it is certain.
Yes, I think it was certain too. That's right, folks. Sunday night, the Fantastic Fun Show will return to the airwaves. Happy April Fool's Day from all of us here at the Ripon Rabbit Hole. Jerry was in on that too. Nevertheless, I can tell you, if nobody else got you on April Fool's, perhaps the Ripon Rabbit Hole did. Eugene, did we get him?
My answer is I think it is possible, but not certain.
I think it's possible too. Anyways, will My Life DIY stay seated on the throne through the month of April, or perhaps will you knock her down and take the crown? Find out Sunday, April 3rd, as we explore another installation of the Fantastic Fun Show, an interactive game show that happens every first Sunday of every month right here on the RiponRabbitHole.com. We'll return back to tonight's topic with Jerry Hicks and the Dark Wolf's Den show. April Fools, everyone.
This is My Life DIY, and
hi, this is JoJo.
Hi, my name is Ash.
Hey, everybody, it's AJ, the Ripon Rabbit.
This is Cynthia Sue Larson.
This is your man Meta, a.k.a. Propagate This Light.
And you're now listening
to Dark Wolf's Den.
The Dark Wolf's Den Show on Ripon Common Sense Radio.
If you were meant to be controlled, you would have come with a remote, but you didn't. And that's why you listen to the Dark Wolf's Den Show. Now, here is your host, Jerry Hicks.
And that's right, I am Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf. And welcome back to the second half of the Dark Wolf's Den Show for Thursday, April 1st, 2021. April Fool's Day, that's right. Whether you're on the edge of reality, the edge of the galaxy, or the edge of your seat, we're glad you chose us to be right there with you. If you're just tuning in tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we are discussing Magical Ormus. That's right, what is Ormus? This is something that sounds almost like an April Fool's joke, right? Almost too good to be true. If this information hadn't been coming from scientists in the first half, I would almost agree that you were right. However, this is very much a real thing and something you can find over the counter even in today's world for health benefits. But it goes way beyond that. It has a lot of magical properties that are nothing shy of amazing, to include even anti-gravity, right? And yes, I know, once again, this sounds like an April Fool's joke, I promise you. Even though this is an April Fool's episode, even though this is an April Fool's episode, let me get those words out there, I assure you this is 100% real, and this is not an April Fool's joke. Everything I'm talking about tonight is 100% legit. Unlike what AJ just notified us about, right? He had me convinced too, guys. He tricked me just right along with you. I started to think that because the holiday weekend, it really wasn't going to be a fantastic fun show either. So, well done, AJ. You got us on this one. But this topic is not an April Fool's joke. This goes back not even to the Bible, as we discussed with Moses in the first half, and the manna of God, and the melting down of the calf into a white powder that we now know is Ormus, and actually has a lot of benefits, and they even fed it to the ancient Egyptians in the form of bread and cakes. So, yes, this is something that has been with humanity for a long time, but even longer than the Bible. This is something that goes back all the way to the Sumerian culture, the very first culture on the entire earth. The very first civilization on the planet, right? At least the one that we know of earliest recorded. But they knew a lot of stuff even back then that they should not, and all of this is recorded on clay tablets called the Sumerian tablets, and these tablets tell an amazing story.
432,000 years before the Great Flood, and this, they don't say this just once, they say this every time that they're talking about our history. The Anunnaki came from Nibiru through the Great Bracelet, which they interpret to be the asteroid belt. And of course, the Anunnaki has been translated as those who come from the heavens to the earth. And they landed in the Persian Gulf. They began to colonize. They were after gold. They tried to get it out of the Persian Gulf. That was slow, tedious. They weren't getting much, so they began to mine for gold, which if you've ever done any mining, whether for coal, gold, anything else, is dangerous, heavy duty, and strenuous work. So they began to have strikes and problems because the Anunnaki said, hey, we signed up to be astronauts. We didn't sign up to be miners.
Think about that. Do our astronauts today look equipped to be miners, or do they look equipped to be astronauts? They're not trained for such things, and this is a classic story that we could relate so easily in today's world.
And they were having big arguments about what to do about this when their science officer, Inky, says, wait a minute, I've got a laboratory in Africa, and I've been working with some of the Earth primitives there, and I think I have figured out a way to create a worker race. And they had the same ethical arguments that we're having today. They said, wait a minute, we can't play God. It's not up to us to create anything. And he said, no. We're not talking about creating anything. Only God can create things. We're only talking about the very things that we do today, improving the breed. Cattle, horses, sheep, dogs, cats, we improve the breed. So they tweaked with the DNA and they improved the breed.
And once again, they did this in order to make a race of people to mine gold. And as crazy as this sounds, all over South Africa to this day, there are a large amount of ancient gold mines, some of the oldest on Earth, that are found in the same area that the Sumerian tablets say that the Sumerians went to mine gold. And of course, now we know that that gold can be turned into a monoatomic element that has amazing properties. We hear about these flying machines, right? We hear about things like the Vimanas, who we know that ran off of mercury, which is yet another metal, and we also hear about all these different flying machines of the ancients. It even says the Sumerians had a flying machine, and the reason they needed the gold was to put it in a powder form and put it in the atmosphere, which is yet another property of gold. You see, if you powder up gold and you put it in the atmosphere, it actually tends to reflect the sunlight back from the planet and can help in things like climate change, like global warming, quote, end quote. Or if there's an issue where there's too much sun coming in, you can put this in the atmosphere to reflect the sunlight from the planet. Kind of like what Bill Gates is talking about planning on doing, darkening the sun. Well, this is what Nibiru, according to the ancient text, actually was doing. They had volcanic ash in their atmosphere, which was normal for their planet. And for some reason, it was starting to dwindle away and the volcanoes weren't putting out as much. And they needed something to supplement this and put into their atmosphere in order to fix the problem. That's why they had to come to Earth and mine the gold to begin with. It wasn't because they needed it for their spaceship. It's because they needed it for their planet. That was the whole point of coming here, to scout out and find the gold. Well, it turns out that that is a real thing. And we are talking even today scientifically of putting gold in our atmosphere in order to try to block the rays of the sunlight and stop the harmful effects on the planet, if there is any. Of course, we're going by modern science's claims, so I'm not saying I back them up, but I'm saying it's interesting that the Sumerians told us this thousands and thousands of years ago, that gold is useful for this. And then they also told us about the manna in the Bible and the white powder that they ended up picking up off the desert floor that Moses said that they could eat, and turns out they could quite well. And it very well may have been a gold manufacturing plant that was being run on Mount Horeb. It may have been technology so far beyond our time, we don't even begin to understand it. And if this sounds insane to you, just think we have things like the Baghdad battery, which is just a couple copper pipes in a clay pot, and they think they used it to electroplate things with what element? But of course, gold. If you put grape juice or some type of acidic liquid into this, you literally get an electrical charge there out of. And it's just amazing how ahead of the curve that the ancients were. What did the ancients know that yet we are still to find out today? We know mysteries like the pyramid that we're still yet to understand today. And then we've got mysteries of Ormus, or white powder of gold. And this is amazing stuff. And like I said, you can find it in a medicinal form over the counter. This is supposed to be very good for your DNA. This is supposed to be good for your body. This is supposed to be good for many, many things in life. And it's amazing to me that it's such a simple thing. You can bring it down to the atomic level. And it also displays properties that we would call, even today, paranormal. Properties like the ability to not only disappear and create invisible routine, if you will, the ability to disappear, but it doesn't only disappear, it disappears from reality itself. It goes quantum. It goes somewhere else. And like we spoke of earlier in the episode also, we've got CERN. CERN is doing projects and experiments with these monoatomic elements of lead, and I can probably guarantee they're shooting other things together. but it brings back the idea that CERN may very well be messing with reality. Because if these things are doing things on a monoatomic dimensional level, if they really are disappearing into another dimension, and it is that connection between the realms, that connection between the veil, if you will. If gold is so superior and such an amazing thing that not only are we obsessed by the color of it, but there could be a reason we are really obsessed with gold at all. There could be things that esoterically or even a genetic memory we have of knowing without realizing that we know these things. We just know that it is very important. But what do you guys think? Do you guys think there's something to it? Do you think there's something like the scientists found to this mystery? We know that the scientists have reported things that are nothing short of esoteric, from anti-gravity to wondrous effects on the human body. This is the wonder drug of wonder drugs, the wonder element, if you will, the thing that could change the world. And of course, you're not going to hear this on your mainstream media, but if you do the research, you're going to find out. Even though this is April Fool's Day, once again, ladies and gentlemen, I assure you there's nothing joking about this. This is not an April Fool's joke. This is a legit, real element that is been found, and I'm sure it can be found in nature if you find it in a monoatomic level. Probably as gold is forming in the seams, I would imagine you could find something like that. But what do you guys think? Do you guys think that it is possible that this is something that the ancients knew, that they used this technology and may have used it to build the pyramids? Maybe that's what they used to put on top of these stones, right? To build the pyramids and float them across. Maybe they didn't need equipment. Maybe they could make it anti-gravity just by laying a little powder on these stones and making the stones lift up, or making it easy enough that a child could lift a 10-ton stone. There's so many possibilities when you look into the what this idea leads to down the road, the long run. If you look at the implications of the idea of Ormus, it is nothing short of magical. But in the end, ladies and gentlemen, all you can do is look at the evidence, apply a little common sense. In the end, ladies and gentlemen, you be the judge. We got to close it out. That's right. That's it for this episode of the Dark Wolf's Den Show for Thursday, April 1st, 2021. So whether you're on the edge of reality, the edge of the galaxy, or the edge of your seat, we're glad you chose us to be right there with you. The den may be closing tonight, ladies and gentlemen, but don't you worry, the weekend fun has only just begun. That's right, it is Easter weekend. It is a special holiday weekend. That's right. On Friday, April 2nd, 2021, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, our buddy AJ the Ripon Rabbit will return to the airwaves with an all-new episode of the Ripon Rabbit Hole live show. That's right. On Friday, he's going to be talking about tinkerers. Say that 5 times fast, right? The tinkerers are the inventors of the world, like I said last night, the people who like to tinker around in the shop and come up with funny and wonderful new inventions. The tinkerers are what make the world go round, at least in my opinion. Make sure you join AJ for discussion on tinkerers on Friday. Maybe you can be tinkering around while you're listening, right? Then on Saturday, April 3rd, 2021, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, AJ the Ripon Rabbit's going to be back with the Ripon Rabbit Hole live show and an episode about calendar stones. That's right. AJ and I were discussing this the other day. There's a mystery here, guys. A mystery that is incredibly intriguing. I don't want to give it away, but it's a timely mystery for sure. And as we know, the calendar stones were built to be a calendar of time of the sun and the moon. It's definitely a conversation you don't want to miss, and a mystery that is going to intrigue you for sure. Then on Sunday, April 4th, Easter Sunday, ladies and gentlemen, he is going to be talking about Easter Island and the Rapa Nui. Nah, just kidding. He is actually going to be doing the Easter-themed Fantastic Fun Show, ladies and gentlemen. So make sure you guys tune in for the Fantastic Fun Show on Sunday. See if the reigning champion, our queen, My Life DIY, can hold the throne against CSN champion, or a CSN champion will knock her off. Or if one of you guys can step in and join the fun of the trivia show, the Fantastic Fun Show. This is an interactive game show that anybody can interact with and join us on YouTube and have a great time and become the king or queen of the Ripon Rabbit Hole for the next month. It don't necessarily have to be My Life DIY or CSN. Maybe one of you can step in and take the crown away from both of them. If I wasn't working that day, I would definitely jump in and give them all a run for their money. But because I can't be there, I need you guys to step in my place and give these guys a run for the money. Try to take the crown away from the guys who have had it for way too long, right? Come on, guys, step on in Sunday, April 4th, 2021, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, on the Ripon Rabbit Hole live show for the Fantastic Fun Show with an Easter theme. That's right. I hope everybody's enjoyed this amazing April Fool's weekend. April Fool's joke AJ got us, guys. AJ got us with that. I gotta say, even I thought the Fantastic Fun Show was canceled, so he definitely tricked every last one of us. Way to go, AJ. I expect nothing less from a magician of your caliber, right? Speaking of magic, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you enjoy the magic over at the RiponRabbitHole.com. That is RiponRabbitHole.com. Over there, you're going to sign up for the Backstage Pass. That is going to get you access to all the magic that is on that site. You've got things like Down the Rabbit Hole, our social media alternative. Come on over and join the rabbits over there and share your information. And we don't like to censor like the big boys do. We let you share your information freely within the realm of expectation, of course. But ladies and gentlemen, while you're over there, make sure you also stop by the 24/7 Backstage Lounge. That's right, I'm going to be over there myself here in just a couple moments and hanging out with the Ripon Rabbits and the mod team over there. And every last one of you that would like to join us, we would love to have you guys over there. Whether you're listening worldwide on your radio, or you're listening on YouTube, or anywhere in between, or even the Ripon Rabbit Hole live player, come on over to the 24/7 Backstage Lounge. Also, when you sign up for this Backstage Pass, you also are signing up for our email newsletter. That's right. You are going to get our email once a week, every week, explaining all the Dark Wolf's dens and all the Ripon Rabbit Holes we're going to be going over all weekend long. That's the way we roll here on Ripon Common Sense Radio. We like to cover all of the incredible topics across a variety of genres. Of course, we've got the Dark Wolf's Den Show and the Paranormal Discussion. We've got AJ the Ripon Rabbit and the Ripon Rabbit Hole Live Show. And all of the incredible things he gets into. So on behalf of AJ the Ripon Rabbit, Michael Musco, Chick Mandela Effect, Walt House, everyone at Ripon Common Sense Radio, and our amazing mod team, also Mr. Jim Mars, may he rest in peace. I really loved using his information tonight. On behalf of all these folks, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf. And remember, until next time, stay awake, but dare to dream. Good night, everybody. Howl! Yeah! The weekend's going. We're going to kick this party off, guys. I'll see you guys next Wednesday. Howl!
Unlocked and into the dark. Some things are better left unknown. And I'll never find you here. 'Cause no one's ever Oh, what a widow, a peaceful spider. When the glass is clean, she's a sneaky hider. Hide the lies and the alibis. Oh, what a sinner is it in her? truth in this riddle? Is love really just this simple? I can't seem to find my way in this world that never stays. What a widow, a peaceful spider. When the glass is clean, she's a sneaky hider. Hide the lies and the alibis. What a sinner, is it in her? Is this real? Just illusion? I'm lost in wonderland of confusion. I'm lost in wonderland of confusion. Is this real or just illusion? Manifestation or a dark delusion? Is this real or just illusion? I'm lost in a wonderland of confusion.